What if I told you there is a country smaller than Colorado that contains nearly every landscape found on Earth? It sits on two tectonic plates that are literally tearing it apart while pushing it skyward. From glaciers flowing into rainforests to volcanic zones powering entire cities, New Zealand's geography is truly unlike anywhere else on the planet. We are counting down the top 10 reasons New Zealand's geography is unlike anywhere else on Earth, from lush rainforests colliding with glaciers to creatures you will not find on any other continent. Each entry reveals another layer of natural wonder, shaped by tectonic fury, ancient isolation, and evolutionary surprises. Some of these features rewrite the rules of what a country's landscape can be. So which force makes the top of the list? Let's begin our journey at number 10. New Zealand covers about 268,000 square kilometres, roughly the size of Colorado or the United Kingdom. Yet in this compact space, the country packs in a dizzying variety of landscapes, more often found scattered across entire continents. Alpine peaks soar above deep fjords and snowy glaciers, just hours from rolling farmland and golden beaches. On the North Island, volcanic plateaus and geothermal fields bubble and steam, while the South Island's southern Alps climb sharply from the Tasman Sea. The entire country stretches only about 1,600 kilometres north to south. But within that span, climates shift from subtropical warmth in Northland to cool, temperate forests in the far south. It's entirely possible to ski down fresh powder in the morning at resorts like Coronet Peak or Mount Ruapehu, then drive a few hours and be paddling into surf at Piha or Raglan before sunset. Nowhere else can you move so quickly from glacier to rainforest, from volcanic hot springs to windswept coast. This compression of the world's biomes into a single, travel-sized nation is no accident. It's the result of powerful geologic forces, wild weather, and deep isolation, all working overtime in a land the size of a single US state. For visitors and locals alike, New Zealand offers a world tour of natural wonders, all within a day's drive. Nearly 4 out of 5 native plants in New Zealand exist nowhere else on Earth. This level of endemism is rare even among island nations, and it is a direct result of tens of millions of years spent in isolation. Ancient forests shelter species that trace their roots back to the age of dinosaurs, their lineages undisturbed by outside competition or predators for much of their evolutionary history. Tucked into burrows on remote offshore islands, the tuatara survives as a living relic from a vanished world. At first glance, it looks like an ordinary lizard, but in reality, it is the last survivor of Rhynchocephalia, a reptile order that flourished alongside early dinosaurs over 200 million years ago. Every other member of this group disappeared long ago, but the tuatara held on, outlasting mass extinctions and continental drift, thanks to New Zealand's extreme geographic seclusion. The country's forests, wetlands, and alpine meadows are filled with plants and animals that evolved in isolation. Giant buttercups that bloom above the snow line, carnivorous land snails, and ancient trees like the kauri and rimu. This unique biological heritage is not just a curiosity, it is a record of evolutionary experiments that played out here and nowhere else. The story of New Zealand's living laboratory is written in the DNA of its flora and fauna, shaped by deep time and the absence of land mammals. In this corner of the Pacific, the ordinary rules of nature have always bent in surprising directions. Between 40 and 50 degrees south, a relentless belt of westerly winds races around the globe, barely slowed by any land. These are the Roaring Forties, and New Zealand sits squarely in their path. With nothing but open ocean between the country and South America, these winds sweep in with full force, shaping both the land and the sea. The result is a climate that can turn on a dime. One moment, blue sky and sunshine, the next, a squall of rain, hail, or even snow. sometimes all in a single afternoon. Locals have a saying, 4 seasons in one day, and it is no exaggeration. The Roaring Forties do not just whip up dramatic weather. As moist air slams into the southern Alps, it is forced abruptly upward, cooling and dumping torrents of rain on the west coast. This orographic lift is the engine behind some of the world's steepest rainfall gradients and the lush rainforests clinging to the mountainsides. Meanwhile, the same winds churn the surrounding seas, driving upwelling that brings cold, nutrient-rich water to the surface. These upwellings feed vast schools of fish and support a striking abundance of marine life, from fur seals to albatrosses that can glide for days on the wind. On land and at sea, the Roaring Forties are the invisible sculptors behind New Zealand's wildest contrasts. The ever-shifting weather and ocean productivity both trace back to these powerful winds, making them a key force in the country's natural identity. Fiordland sits in the far southwest of New Zealand, where mountains rise straight from the sea and the land feels untouched by time. Here, Pacific moisture driven by the Roaring Forties slams into steep granite walls, unleashing extraordinary rainfall. Some slopes above the fjords receive over 8,000 millimetres of rain each year, more than 8 metres, drenching the cliffs and feeding dense emerald green rainforest. Milford Sound and Doubtful Sound are the best known of these flooded valleys, their waters slicing deep into the land, flanked by sheer rock faces that soar more than 1 kilometre above the surface. Over countless ice ages, massive glaciers carved these valleys into classic U-shaped forms, grinding through hard rock and leaving behind a landscape of impossible scale. When the last great glaciers melted, the sea flooded in, creating the fjords that now define the region. Even today, during heavy storms, thousands of temporary waterfalls pour off the cliffs, turning the walls of the fjords into living curtains of water. The sheer volume of rain and the steepness of the terrain make Fiordland one of the wettest inhabited places outside the tropics, on par with the storm-lashed fjords of southern Chile and coastal Alaska. Access remains limited. Steep slopes, tangled forests, and relentless rain have kept much of Fiordland essentially unexplored on foot. Most visitors arrive by boat or helicopter, glimpsing a world where nature still dominates, and where ice, rain and rock have sculpted some of the most dramatic scenery found anywhere on Earth. On the wild west coast of New Zealand's South Island, 2 rivers of ice, Franz Josef, known to Maori as Ka Roimata o Ahina Hukatere, and Fox Te Moeka o Tuawe, tumble from the heights of the Southern Alps into a world of moss and fern. Over just 13 kilometres, these glaciers drop more than 2,600 metres, their tongues ending less than 300 metres above sea level and only a short walk from dense temperate rainforest. It is one of the rarest sights on Earth, blue-white ice grinding downhill, pressing up against dripping green rainforest, all within sight of the Tasman Sea. This collision of climates is possible because of the region's unique geography. Moist air from the Tasman Sea slams into the mountains, unleashing torrents of rain below and burying the high neaves under snow more than 30 metres deep each year. The valleys here are steep and narrow, squeezing the ice downward at speeds up to 10 times faster than most valley glaciers. The result is a landscape where you can start a hike among towering tree ferns and, in less than an hour, stand at the edge of ancient ice. Few places in the world compress such extremes so tightly. Meltwater from the glacier flows directly through rainforest, feeding rivers that surge after every storm. Yet this balance is fragile. Both Franz Josef and Fox have surged and shrunk dramatically in recent decades, with rapid retreats since 2008 as temperatures climb. Today, reaching the ice often means a helicopter ride, and the changing face of the glaciers is a visible reminder of how quickly even the most dramatic landscapes can shift. Still, the journey from jungle to glacier remains a signature New Zealand experience, one that captures the country's wild vertical leap from sea to sky. A jagged backbone runs the length of New Zealand's South Island, the Southern Alps, or Ka Tiritiri o Te Moana. Rising abruptly from the coastal plains, this mountain chain is crowned by Aoraki, also known as Mount Cook, which reaches 3,724 metres above sea level. Here, the land is anything but static. The Southern Alps are among the fastest growing mountains on the planet, their peaks thrust upward by the relentless collision of the Pacific and Australian tectonic plates. Yet for every millimetre they rise, rain and ice claw them back down. Moist westerly winds from the Tasman Sea are forced skyward by the towering ridge, cooling quickly and unleashing torrents of rain on the western slopes. Some valleys receive over 6 metres of rainfall each year, feeding dense rainforest and carving deep, glacier-filled valleys. Just a few kilometres east, the story changes. The mountains cast a rain shadow, leaving wide, dry riverbeds and golden grasslands in places like Canterbury and Otago. This sharp gradient, lush rainforest on one side and dry plains on the other, is among the steepest anywhere on Earth. More than 3,000 glaciers cling to the Alps' flanks, their slow grind shaping the land even as meltwater races to the sea. The Southern Alps are a living record of collision and erosion, a place where the forces that shape continents are visible in every ridge and valley. Each year, the mountains grow a little higher, only to be worn down by the very storms they summon. In this ongoing contest between rock and water, New Zealand's most iconic landscape is constantly remade. Before humans ever set foot on these islands, New Zealand's forests and grasslands echoed with the calls of birds, not the footsteps of mammals. The only native land mammals were bats, 3 species, 2 of which survive today, flitting through the twilight above the ancient trees. No native mice, no squirrels, no deer or foxes. For millions of years, the land was untouched by the hooves, paws or teeth of terrestrial mammals. In this blank space, birds evolved to fill every niche. Giant moas, some standing over 3.5 metres tall, became the dominant herbivores, browsing through the undergrowth like feathered deer. The kiwi, with its whisker-like feathers and powerful sense of smell, took on the role of a nocturnal forager, snuffling through leaf litter much as a hedgehog might elsewhere. The kakapo, a large, flightless parrot, wandered the forest floor at night, fearless and curious in a world without ground predators. With no need to escape mammalian hunters, many birds lost the power of flight altogether. Wings shrank, legs grew sturdy, and nests were built on the ground. Even the smallest birds went about their lives with little fear, their only threats coming from the sky. This evolutionary gamble worked for tens of millions of years until people arrived, bringing rats, dogs, stoats and cats. Suddenly, the same traits that made New Zealand's birds so unique left them exposed. Moas vanished within a few centuries, followed by Haast's eagle, the world's largest raptor. The kiwi and kakapo survived only through the luck of remote refuges, and later the efforts of conservationists. The absence of native land mammals shaped every corner of New Zealand's ecosystem, creating a living laboratory where birds ruled the land until the rules changed. Steam rises from the earth in places like Rotorua, drifting across city parks and even curling from cracks in the pavement. In New Zealand, the heat that shapes volcanoes and geysers is also hard at work powering homes and businesses. About 17% of the country's electricity comes from geothermal sources, one of the highest shares anywhere in the world. This is possible because the Taupo volcanic zone sits atop vast reservoirs of superheated water and steam, a direct result of the restless plate boundary running beneath the North Island. The world's second commercial geothermal power plant opened at Wairakei near Lake Taupo in 1958. Engineers drilled deep into the earth, tapping boiling water to spin turbines and supply electricity to the national grid. The challenges were immense: corrosive fluids, silica deposits that clogged pipes, and the need to balance energy extraction with the health of the underground reservoir. Over time, new technologies and careful management have allowed geothermal stations to expand, while re-injecting spent water helps maintain pressure below ground. In Rotorua, the benefits of this underground energy are visible in daily life. Shallow bores heat homes and pools, and clouds of steam drift through the city centre. Hot water bubbling up from the earth has been used for centuries by Maori for cooking and bathing, and now it serves everyone from local families to tourists soaking in mineral pools. The government's goal is to reach 100% renewable electricity by 2030, and geothermal power remains a cornerstone of that plan. In a country built on restless geology, people have learned not only to live with the heat beneath their feet, but to harness it, turning the raw energy of the earth into a cleaner, more resilient future. A band of restless earth stretches across New Zealand's North Island, running from the steaming vents of Wakari in the Bay of Plenty to the snow-capped peaks of Ruapahu. This is the Taupo Volcanic Zone, a 350-kilometre arc of volcanoes, calderas and geothermal fields. Nowhere else on Earth does such intense volcanic activity unfold in such a compact space. The land here is constantly reshaped by forces deep below, where the Pacific Plate dives under the Australian Plate, melting rock and fueling eruptions that can change the landscape in a matter of hours. At the heart of this zone lies Lake Taupo, a vast, tranquil expanse that hides its violent origin. Around 26,500 years ago, the Oruanui eruption tore open the Earth, blasting out an estimated 1,170 cubic kilometres of rock and ash, enough to fill Lake Taupo nearly twice over. This was one of the largest volcanic events on the planet in the last 2 million years. The eruption blanketed much of the central North Island in ignimbrite and ash, rerouted rivers, and left a caldera so immense that it later filled with water to become New Zealand's largest lake. But Taupo's fury is not just ancient history. In 232 AD, another eruption sent a column of ash high into the atmosphere. The blast was so powerful that distant observers in China and Rome may have recorded strange skies and red sunsets. Today, the ground still trembles, and geysers hiss with warning. The Taupo Volcanic Zone is a reminder that in New Zealand, the land's beauty is inseparable from its hazards, a place where the forces that built the country are never far from the surface. New Zealand's entire landscape is the direct result of a restless boundary, where two giant slabs of the Earth, the Pacific and Australian tectonic plates, meet, grind and reshape the land. Here, the country is being pulled, pushed and twisted at the seam. South Island's Alpine Fault slices through for nearly 600 kilometres, accommodating most of the plate motion with a combination of sideways slip and vertical uplift. The Pacific Plate crashes into the Australian Plate, squeezing up the Southern Alps at an average rate of about 7 millimetres each year, fast by geological standards. At the same time, relentless rain and ice wear these peaks down almost as quickly, creating a dynamic balance between uplift and erosion. To the north, the story changes. The Pacific Plate dives beneath the Australian Plate along the Hikurangi subduction zone, fueling earthquakes and volcanic activity. The plates converge here at a rate of roughly 40 millimetres per year, about the speed fingernails grow. This shifting boundary is the master key to New Zealand's geography. It explains why glaciers tumble into rainforest, why geothermal fields bubble beside lakes, and why mountains rise so close to the sea. Nowhere else does a single country compress such a range of tectonic forces and their consequences into such a compact space. The result is a land that is never finished, always changing and forever shaped by the invisible engine beneath. Across all 12 entries, one pattern emerges. New Zealand's geography is a collision of extremes, where restless tectonic forces, deep isolation, and relentless weather forge a land of constant change and unique life. That combination doesn't just set the country apart, it makes New Zealand a living experiment in evolution and geology. Nowhere else compresses so much natural drama into so little space. Which landscape amazed you most? Let us know below.